Welcome to Center Court. Today we're talking about MBA admissions with four of the best schools in the world. I'm really honored to be here with our panelists and hosting this for you all today. Just a quick reminder that this is live and all of our four guests are here to answer your questions. So if you have Q&A, we'll be checking at the end. And we only have 45 minutes, so we're going to jump right in. And actually, I'm going to ask our esteemed guests to introduce themselves and tell us a little bit about their school, including education, values, and anything else you want to add. Andrea, let's start with Ross.
Wonderful. Thank you, Heather. My name's Andrea McHale. I am the Director of Admissions for the Ross School of Business's full-time MBA program. We are first located in Ann Arbor, Michigan, so definitely quintessential Midwest, big college town. We're about 30 minutes drive from Detroit, Michigan, and about a 3-hour drive or 3-hour train from Chicago, Illinois. At the University of Michigan, we are known for our commitment to trying to build a better world through business. And how we do that is through our action-based learning pedagogy. That pedagogy is really highlighted with our capstone MAP project. Every single one of our MBA ones take at the end of their first year. We call it the internship before the internship, but it is a consulting project based in a number of different organizations, industries, and sectors. About 45% of those opportunities are international, as well as 65% being domestic. It is one of our biggest differentiators, and that is kind of one of the highlights, but just one of a vast number of different opportunities in action-based learning, both in the curriculum as well as extracurricularly. Thanks, Heather.
Thank you. Jared, how about Yale?
Great. Well, first of all, thanks for having me, and thanks for including me in this distinguished panel with Andrea and Allison and Donna. Really honored to be here. My name is Jared Liu. I work at the Yale School of Management. I use pronouns he, him, and I would say it is for me a daily privilege to be associated with Yale. It is an internationally known school. It is a place that is filled with world-class leaders and thinkers, and a place that lives its mission. So every day, whether I'm virtually or in person, you really feel like it's a daily privilege to be a part of that place. We're a small school, small in terms of size, small in terms of the location, New Haven, Connecticut, where we are, but many big contexts to the program. By way of time, I'll just say, I think a lot of candidates think about Yale as the school for nonprofits, and I think that is absolutely true in terms of how it is baked into the mission. But I think it's a yes and. We do a lot of things really well, and I know a lot of these schools do as well. But even just to highlight one, I would say, if you were to ask faculty in the finance departments, who's who in terms of finance world, you start just rattling off folks who have worked for the White House Council of Economic Advisors, Federal Reserve, who are doing cutting edge research. And so definitely, as you are looking into schools, really go into depth and try not to be, sort of anchored in sort of tropes of, who does what by reputation or such. So really happy to be here.
Okay, thank you. Allison.
Thank you so much. Hi, everybody. Thrilled to be here as well. Great to see my fellow panelists who I see frequently throughout the year, and today is another good day. My name is Allison Jameson. I am an Assistant Dean of Admissions here at Duke's Fuqua School of Business. In January, I will have been here 19 years in admissions the entire time, and I like to tell people I would not still be here if I didn't believe in the mission of this place. It's a really special place. You can see behind me, it's fall in Durham. No, that's not live, but that is kind of what we're getting to look like. Durham, North Carolina is about a 20-minute drive from the Raleigh-Durham, North Carolina airport. Raleigh is the capital of North Carolina, and we're an easy drive to both the coast and the mountains, and about 4.5 hours to DC. So that's kind of where we are. It's a beautiful college setting, much like Ann Arbor, where our biggest rival is 8 miles down the road. So it makes for a lot of fun in athletics and just general competition. But when we think about Fuqua, the thing that we like to talk about is this idea of Team Fuqua. And this is the mentality that our students bring to Fuqua. We have 6 paired principles. The one that I like to highlight is what we call supportive ambition. Everyone here wants to be successful, but they want to do it along with their peers. So this is not a cutthroat place, but it is a place of high achievers who help others achieve high as well. One of the unique features of our program is that we are set up in a term structure as opposed to semesters. So you complete your core classes by the 3rd term, which is spring 1, and you can start taking electives as early as that January of your first year in the MBA program. So it gives you a lot of flexibility in the path that you choose. And I would echo what Jared said, that don't think any of us are pigeonholed. You're going to find strengths in a lot of areas. One thing that I'll highlight at Fuqua that is well known, about 20% of our classes doing our health sector management program. So we have a huge presence in the healthcare space, capitalizing on our connections, our history, and also our location at the Research Triangle Park area of North Carolina. But lots more to offer, and you'll find support in whatever area you choose to focus in.
Great. Excuse me. Thank you. And last but not least, Donna, tell us about Darden.
Okay, great. Well, hi, everybody. Thanks to all the participants. Thanks, Heather, for having me. And it's so great to see colleagues from other schools. I think a lot of people are surprised that, there's a lot of camaraderie between schools, and always nice to see our colleagues. I am the Senior Assistant Dean of Admissions at Darden. And next year in 2025, I'm going to hit 40 years of admissions experience, which is like hard to believe. But 22 of it has been at Darden. Particularly proud to represent, a school that really puts a stake in the ground in terms of the importance of the quality of the education, the quality of the teaching faculty, and a huge emphasis on developing relevant skills that are going to help our graduates hit the ground running in their internships and in their full-time jobs. Darden largely uses the case method of study as its teaching pedagogy, in large part because the faculty remain very committed to the types of skills that it develops with each case. And students will do about an average of 500 cases in 2 years. A student will put themselves in the place of a protagonist and ask themselves again and again, what would I do in this situation? It also gives students great exposure to so many different industries. Each case is set within an industry. And I love the phrase, you don't know what you don't know. So what a wonderful way in 21 months to get exposed to so many different industries, to ask yourself again and again what you would do in a particular situation and to learn from others. Darden is also really well known for its community. And we're really proud to really amplify the importance of collaboration that shows up in the sections, within the learning teams, and the manner in which people interact with each other inside the classroom and outside of the classroom. We're located in Charlottesville, Virginia, about 2 hours away from Washington, D.C., and an hour north of Richmond. I always tell people, try to make time not only to be a Darden student, but you're also a student of the University of Virginia. There are 11 joint degree programs. You can cross-register and take up to 2 electives outside of the business school. So many great activities at UVA. There's an upcoming film festival that I love, the book festival, so many pop-up speakers, performing arts. And then what I love about Charlottesville the most is the food scene. It's rated by Rand McNally, the #1 foodie town in the country. So that's what I love most about Charlottesville. But thanks again for having us.
Great. Well, thank you. So just before we started, we were talking about our audience and how we will have people on this webinar that are interested in, they know where they want to go, they know where they want to apply, or they think they do, but they're just narrowing down the options, or they're just wondering, should I even get an MBA? So since this is an admissions panel, but I want to ask you about what qualities you're looking for in your upcoming classes. What should, if you're considering an MBA, what should I be thinking about as an applicant? What should I be looking for in my school? And what are you looking for in applicants? And then Donna, I'm going to go right back to you, and then we'll go down the line.
Thanks so much for the question. I think it's such a commonly asked question. And I really, as we're compiling a class at Darden, There are some common characteristics we're looking for, such as strong interpersonal and communication skills. We feel that they're really important to be successful leaders and to be successful at Darden. So common themes are things like interpersonal skills, communication skills, team skills, and leadership skills. But aside from that, having done this for a long time, I really believed different applicants could shine for different reasons. And I think it's really important for each individual applicant to undergo I think what can be a very joyful experience of identifying what are your signature strengths that are unique to you, that you can convey in the application, that are relevant to an MBA program. There's so many different kinds of leadership styles out there, and each applicant may have something about their background that particularly stands out, and I would encourage you to try to be authentic in identifying what you consider to be your signature strengths when you're applying. And I could go on and on about so many different examples of students who have stood out for different reasons and will make a contribution at Darden for different reasons, but common themes are in the ones that I mentioned earlier. I think when picking a school, I think my best advice is to go and visit. There's nothing that compares more than visiting a school and, you know, tacking on some time to see, okay, I want to visit my individual school. What about the larger university? What about the town that I'm going to be living in for 2 years? I think probably I speak for all of the schools in the multitude of ways that we have to connect with applicants. I don't want to speak for other schools, but I know them well enough to know that we all offer so many on grounds, off grounds, travel, hybrid events. But my best advice is it's worth the investment to go and visit.
Great advice. Thank you. Allison, anything different for Fuqua?
Yeah, I think many of it is very similar to what Donna said, and I think that'll be true at many top MBA programs. But I think, you know, our former Dean Bill Boulding talked about what we're looking for in students is IQ, so you need the intellectual horsepower to be able to handle the program. EQ, you need to be empathetic and understanding to be a good team member and a good leader. And then what he called DQ, or the decency quotient. And this is people who are people you want to be around, those people who want to use business as a force for good, and who are looking to have an impact on their communities. So when we look at an applicant, much like Donna said, people are going to come from all sorts of different backgrounds. You may be coming from the military, you may be a teacher, maybe you're a scientist, maybe you're an investment banker, maybe you're a brand manager, whatever your background is. The common thread through our students is these are people who have had an impact in their immediate communities. That may be their family, their work, their city, their state, their country, whatever that might be, because that's how we're going to approximate what will you be like as a student at Fuqua. The MBA is an active degree. So we don't want people who are going to come in, sit in class, do the work, make all A's, go home and talk to no one. We want people who are going to come in, who are going to engage, share their experience, learn from others, be involved with the clubs, bring in speakers, share their expertise, be on the soccer team, all of these things. Because, you know, we've always said 2 years goes by really, really fast when you're in a place that you love. And it's a really long time if you're not happy. So I would absolutely echo what Donna said and visit if you can. If you can do it in person, great, or one of our virtual events. Talk to our students, talk to our alumni. You know, the alumni network is going to be one of the most valuable things that you take with you from any MBA program. So I'd encourage you to connect with our community, with our students, with our alumni, see what they have to say and see what their experience has been as a great way to sort of approximate what yours might be. And when you're deciding on the schools, there's a lot of that. There's a lot of the talking to people and who are you vibing with, who feels like you, but also look at the specific offerings. We have a lot in common, but we have a lot of differences too. So look for those specific things that you are looking to enhance or grow in your skill set. And what are those specific offerings in each of these schools? Because you'll find lots and lots of resources there, so allow yourself the time to explore.
Great, thank you. I actually really like this question. I mean, there's lots of similarities, but there's some differences. So, Jared, at Yale, what are you looking for in your upcoming class of admits? And I've got a kitty that's about to join the webinar. And what should applicants be looking for when they're considering?
Yeah, we've got an extra teammate there. I love it.
Every meeting, she's on every meeting.
So yeah, I can frame out what we look for and why we look for that. You know, so at a very high level, there are 3 things we look for. We want academic success, we want professional accomplishments, and we want community contributions. And we try to be pretty core in terms of the application components. So there's tests, there's transcripts, and behavioral assessment. Those are our academic components. There's a resume, there are recommendations and video questions. Those are professional accomplishment sections. And then community contributions, we'll have an interview, we'll have an activity section. And really, I mean, these things can kind of bleed over from one area to the next, depending on how you go with those. But those are the core sections of our application. Like I said, we try to be, pretty succinct in what we ask for. The why we ask for it, I think, is really self-reflective. I would encourage you to think about who you want on your team. I love the way that Allison and Donna are talking about the peer community, because as a parent of young children, I'm always struck by how when I consider the school where I want my children to go to, the first thing I think about is their peer community. It impacts so much. And I would say, for a graduate program, that's probably thought of less, but you should think about it just as often. We think about those three areas as areas that you, as the current student, all want your peers to be contributing in, right? Like you want to hear about their professional accomplishments and you want to learn from those. In the academic classroom, you want to be able to sort of wrestle with those case studies and those different learning modules so that it's not just, this sort of premise of what is the one right answer? Because the reality is in complex problems, there is no one right answer. And you want, a community that's really, pushing you in terms of, I love that decency, and in terms of, sort of that emotional quotient, you want to be surrounded by those peer communities. So like the why we ask for these things is really, I think, self-reflective for you of the kind of community that you want to be a part of.
Great. Thank you so much, Andrea.
Thank you. I mean, ditto to everything Allison, Donna, and Jared just shared. I think at Ross, there is no right fit applicant. And I think there is a central theme with all of my colleagues here, but we do look for some core competencies. Adaptability, resiliency, accountability are themes you're going to see both in our essays as well as in some of the evaluative interview questions that we're asking. We are looking for those competencies coming into the program. My other kind of comment is the application process is a very reflective tool for each applicant to go through. So when you're going through your applications on the programs that you've selected, do a values exercise. What are your core values? And then assess that to the mission, the values, and the competencies of the programs themselves. And you want to make sure there's alignment. Just like an application or admissions officers, we're looking for programmatic fit and alignment with each applicant. As an applicant, you should be doing the same to those programs. It's a great value add exercise to do that. And I think that will help you shortlist those programs that bubble to the top for you that you should be applying to.
That's great advice. Thank you. So if I asked, actually, Jared, I'm going to direct this to you first. If we asked your alumni about the highlights of their time at Yale, what experiences do you think that they would talk about?
Yeah, and I'm excited to hear other schools on this as well, because I think it really frames out so much that's happening in these communities. But I would start there even. I think, one of the number one reasons why, folks come away from Yale excited is New Haven, which is really funny in a way, because I suspect that if you were asked people on the way in, like, of their pro and con list, where is New Haven? I suspect it is not the top of their pro list, but by the time they're graduating, it is absolutely, one of the main things. And a lot of folks end up staying in New Haven. So I think New Haven's going to be high up on the list. I think that, similar to the peer community, they're going to talk about the deep friendships. We have this really fantastic tradition called Voices on Monday nights, where students talk about their personal journey. Sometimes it relates to why they came to the school or pursuing an MBA. Sometimes it doesn't. It's really just a sort of understanding one's peers, making sure you're seen and heard and valued. And I think it does a lot to just establish the community. I think they love Voices. Garska Cup is really special. Actually, always crack up thinking about how very New England or, cold weather climate this is. It's a first years versus second years ice hockey match. Who comes into, these programs thinking that they're going to skate on the hockey team, but it ends up being about 3/4 of the students. So they love that. And, lots of things I could talk about, but the last thing I'll say is we have a real special place for folks who choose to do what they do, not because it pays a certain amount of money or confers to them a certain title or brand, but because it's mission central to them. And so the students will actually raise money throughout the year through something called the internship fund to subsidize their peers who choose to go into nonprofit, into government, into these areas that pay less, in order to help them feel confident to choose those areas. And I think, whether regardless of which side of that you are on, you feel really positive about doing that. So there are a lot of things that I could talk about. But like I said, I'm excited to hear what others have to say about this.
Great. Well, thank you. Let's hear from Allison.
Yeah, I think the hardest part of this question is picking the things that you highlight. I think one of the things that is one of my favorite traditions, and I hear it so often from alumni, is camp out. So Duke has a fantastic basketball team. You may have heard about it. And our undergraduate students have to camp out for tickets every night for every single home game. The graduate students have one weekend. You camp out for 36 hours and you get season tickets. And I love it because you have divinity students and law students, and they're in tents and sleeping bags. And the MBA students have corporate sponsors, and we have portable dance floors, and we have buffets, but everybody stays out in the weather. It's actually this coming weekend is camp out. And then you get to go and be a Cameron crazy and be inside in the basketball games and see some of these wonderful rivalries. So that's a sort of a fun extracurricular one. We also have an ongoing competition with the University of North Carolina, again, 8 miles away, called the Blue Cup, where we compete in things from soccer and tennis to swimming in a business suit and things like that. So those are some of the fun sort of extracurricular things that we do. But I do think, similar to my colleagues here, most people who are coming to Duke are not from North Carolina. And so everybody is sort of coming into this environment together, and Fuqua is the center of their social lives and their academic experience. So we don't have classes on Wednesdays. We use those classes or those days for speakers and club meetings and things like that. But then every Friday at 4:30, we have our Fuqua Fridays where everybody comes together. So it's going to be students from various graduate business programs at Fuqua. We have a one-year master's program. Everybody's together, faculty, staff. We have food. There's often a theme. We'll have international night. We'll have the brand challenge. We have a drag show. We have Fuqua's Got Talent. So there's so much that goes on there, and that just sort of kicks off the weekend and everybody goes out together. So aside from sort of the fun stuff, I think that the thing that I hear most often goes back to Team Fuqua, and I know we kind of sound like a broken record because we say it a lot, but the stories that I hear from the alumni that illustrate that are of someone who did a summer internship together. There were 2 of them, and the company was only planning on taking one person full time, and the person who got the offer went back and negotiated to get both people in, or that people were casing together prior to a big consulting company job, not because they wanted anybody else to get it besides them, but they genuinely felt like, hey, the best person will get this role, and I know that they'll help me as I continue to look for mine. So it's those continuous stories, again, of that idea of supportive ambition that I think I hear most commonly from our alumni, on top of all the fun stuff, because Durham's a really fun place too.
That's great. Thanks, Allison. Donna, what
I
would your
got so
alumni say?
engrossed in what people were saying. The question was, what are favorite traditions?
Well,
Right.
favorite traditions, or what your alumni would say. If we were to ask your alumni, what were
Yeah.
their favorite experiences of their time?
Okay. One of the common things I hear from alumni, and it's, I think this is so heartening, is that their time at Darden were 2 of the best years of their life. So there's that's so heartening to me. And one of the things I tell prospective students is that it can be really stressful, to go through the application process, but try to reframe it and say to yourself, like, hey, I'm embarking on an experience that could end up being 2 of the best years of your life. So hopefully that sort of helps de-stress the nitty-gritty of the application process and taking standardized tests and things, and think sort of big picture about what an impact the MBA is going to have on you personally and professionally. I have 3 favorite traditions at Darden. One is a tradition that started on the first day that Darden was established in the 1950s, and it's morning coffee. And there are 2 times in between classes where the entire community gathers. For coffee, there's free coffee, tea, hot chocolate, iced coffee. Oftentimes recruiters or different organizations, or there will be bagels, croissants, all kinds of yummy, but things that are bad for you, things at morning coffee. And it's just a time for the entire community to come together twice a day, take a stretch break in between your first and second class, and then your second and third class, and just sort of socialize with your classmates. But faculty show up. I try to go when I'm not traveling. So just love community, the morning coffee as a community builder. One of my favorite traditions is the International Food Festival. So, for example, in our first year, we have 30% of the students are international students from 30 countries. They speak 44 languages. Oh gosh, it's just such an amazing environment. And I know this is true for all of our business schools, where you get a chance to form friendships with people from all around the world. But the food festival is such a wonderful way to try foods from different countries. The school gives students a budget. They often dress in their native costumes if there is one, and we get to sample food from all over the world. There's dance performances and a talent show from all around the world. And that just happened two weekends ago. I brought 10 people in my family to it, and everybody just so enjoyed it. That's one of my favorites. And then the third I would mention is something called the Darden Cup. Everybody is assigned to a section. There's about 67 students in each section, and there's a series of competitions, friendly, fun competitions between the sections that are intended to amplify camaraderie within your section, but also get you out and mingling with other sections. So like last year there was pickleball. I played pickleball with the students sometimes, which was a lot of fun. There's often soccer, there's trivia, there's a talent show, there's something for everyone. So those are three of my favorite traditions. And I think Darden Cup is probably one that the students would say is one of their favorites. And again, something for everyone. You don't have to participate in every competition. And some people may be great at trivia, not so athletic, and other people are more into the soccer and pickleball, but something for everyone to make it inclusive.
Well, thanks, Donna. I've been planning my next week, so I thought I'd go camping at Duke, and then I'd hit some coffee time at Darden, and then I'm heading straight up to New Haven for Voices on Monday night. I'm just trying to figure out what I'm going to do in Ann Arbor next. Andrea,
Well,
what would your alumni say?
I guess to continue with the theme, this is school, and you're building really close-knit tight bonds with your peers. And many times it's taking those opportunities outside of your comfort zone, outside of the academics, and really just to enjoy each other's company. So Ann Arbor is definitely known for its like close, tight-knit, collaborative culture. And I'm going to focus on the social as well. So the first being MTREX. They're facilitated with the help of Ross, but they are driven by our students, and they are trips. So for example, between orientation and the start of school, our students have the opportunity to select into an MTREC, and we have host countries. So one of our current students will host a number of current Rossers in their home country. We have one mystery adventure as well. So for those that are adventurous, they'll let you know if you need a passport. There's no visa requirement, and they'll tell you what type of clothes and attire to bring, and you show up and they give you your ticket and you figure out where you're going. So that's a really quick way to, in smaller groups, get to know your peers. We also, again, Ann Arbor, college town, have a very big football tailgate scene. Our MBA students host probably the best and most popular tailgate, which is called The Bus. It's an actual bus that helps supports their tailgates. And I think finally, we have a large number of student clubs, and those range from professional affinity and then also that social aspect. So we always encourage our students, be one of each, be part of a professional club, be part of an affinity club, and then be part of a fun club or something that's outside of your comfort zone, because one, you get to know other people within your program, and you learn new skill sets and learn new experiences. And that's those moments that stay with our alums indefinitely and becomes their best favorite memories.
Thank you so much. It's all of these wonderful activities and clubs and ways to enrich your life, and I've heard over and over and over again from our audience too, the same thing that Donna had mentioned. It's the best 2 years of my life. Very scary. The waiting before the yes letter comes in the mail is the most excruciating part, but well worth it and lots of fun. And thank you for sharing all of those. other things that MBA students do while on campus. And also, to go back to what Donna brought up, you did start to share a little bit of your class profile. And, what's your current class profile? I'm a student, I'm hitting campus. Who are my classmates, Donna?
Okay, you said my name, right?
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, so in this year's entering class, let's see, we have full-time program, MBA, part-time, MSBA, but I'm assuming you want us to focus on the full-time MBA program. We had 355 entering students. Like I said earlier, 30% international from 30 countries, speaking 44 languages, but a lot of the domestic students can also add a international flavor in that a huge number of students, I think it was about 43% studied abroad or worked abroad. And so it's just amazing. I mean, the opportunity to form friendships with people from all over the world and the opportunities to travel all over the world through our Darden Worldwide class opportunity. I'm very proud. This is the first year that all schools had to navigate the SCOUTUS ruling. So very happy with the diversity of our class. I think that was an area that was very concerning because I know that I'm sure all of our schools are very committed to diversity in the classroom and the importance of having diverse voices in the classroom. Oh my gosh, like 279 unique employers represented. I think it was 217 unique undergraduate schools represented, and would go back to amplifying that I do believe each applicant can shine for different reasons. And yes, there's some common themes that we look for, and many schools did such a beautiful job articulating what those themes are, but each individual has the potential each individual who's admitted is admitted for a reason, and they're not always the same reason. And somebody may be admitted because their collaboration skills are so evident. And for somebody else, it may be that they come from a really unique industry. Somebody else may show like incredible resilience. Others, there's so many different ways to be a leader. So while I'm really happy and excited about our entering class profile, would want to really amplify the individual contributions that each individual brings and is admitted for a reason, and the importance of really tapping into your authentic signature strengths.
Thanks, Donna. And before I go, I'm gonna jump to Andrea next for the question on current class. But quickly, I want to remind our audience that they have an opportunity to ask you questions in the Q&A feature, which I'd love to do. We don't have too much time left, about 10 minutes or so before we need to start letting you know how to get a hold of these fantastic schools and how you can be reached. So questions, please pop in the Q&A. And then until then, Andrea, tell us about your most recently admitted class or the general class profile.
Thank you. Typically at Ross, we enroll in the fall annually for our full-time program, anywhere between 380 and 400 students. This year we enrolled 396 students. Similarly to Donna, we had 44% international students in this incoming class, and that's across 40 different countries. So lots of diversity of experiences. And we're typically pretty even between STEM backgrounds, business, and humanities. So again, when you think about that prior experience going into the classroom environment, that diversity enriches the discussion, the way that people solve problems in a team-based approach. So we're really excited about that. One other thing we were excited about is our focus on first-generation students. And so we had I believe it was 21% of our incoming class identified as a first-generation students, and the support both in the program as well as within the school, as well as within the student community, I think is a big driver of that. And we were also happy with our domestic diversity. 15% of our domestic students have a military background, 53 identified as students of color, with 29% being underrepresented minorities. So we're hoping to have that same kind of class profile moving into this next year. I don't anticipate any significant changes, but there's an art and a science to admissions, so we're really dependent on the applicant volume each year that we receive.
Great. Thank you for that. Jared, how is the class profile at Yale?
Yeah, thank you. So we have about 350 students per graduating class, about 40% women, about 50% international domestic split, about 5 years of work experience. And within that, if we combine consulting and finance, which are, typically the two most common industries, it'll be less than 50% of the class, which tells you that the majority of the class, just slightly, in the majority, come from a non-traditional industry. I think that's really helpful for candidates to hear because we get a lot of questions from candidates about how we perceive non-traditional candidates. And oftentimes the industry they're coming from is, sort of a first pass at that. So know that you're in the majority, if you are not consulting or finance. Similar to Andrea, we were proud. We had about 20% first gen students, area that we continue to look at really closely. 50% students of color, of which 16% were underrepresented students of color. Academically, it's about a 730 GMAT, 675 GMAT focus, and 164, 166 verbal quant split on the GRE for folks who take that, and about a 3.68 GPA. The other thing I'll say here is that context is really important. I think everyone sees these class profiles and they think, I'm not that student, right? I mean, by definition, none of you are the average or the median student. And so this can be helpful, certainly to understand where you align, but also really unhelpful in that you think like, oh, like I don't have 5 years of work experience, they'll never take me. So just know that our committees really care about your context and how you proceeded through your academic journey or where you are relative to your peers, where you work. So help us to understand what that context is and tell your story.
Thank you. We often at Poets and Quants will the first thing that we'll see as a question is, I'm a non-traditional applicant. And, if it is definitely the majority of the questions that we receive. So thank you for mentioning that. I think applicants need to hear it. Just take the edge off of the nervousness for applying in the first place. Allison.
Yeah, no, thank you. So Fuqua this year, also super excited about our class. Lots of diversity in lots of ways. We have 427 students. And again, very much not a typical student. Only 29% of our students come from a business undergraduate background. So for context, most people are coming not from the business world. 261 undergraduate institutions, 318 different employers, 16% have advanced degrees. We have doctors, pharmacists, PhDs, others in the program that are now, pursuing the MBA to add on to that. About 18% of our class identify as first generation, 11% are US military. When you look at international military as well, that goes up obviously to about 16%. This year's class is 41% international from 45 different countries. 56% of our class identify as students of color, with 40% being underrepresented students of color. So I think that much like everybody has said, it's so diverse. If you go to our website, you will see that we will give you ranges of scores, the middle 80% range. So for example, last year, the GMAT 80% range was 660 to 760. That means 10% of people had below a 660, 10% had above. That's what that means. So, if you're looking at that and saying, where do I fit in here? Everyone can fit. Really, we are interested in getting to know you as a whole person for all the reasons that we talked about earlier. But we find that having people from different backgrounds, different contexts really adds to the environment, adds to the discussions, and adds to the relationships that our students have.
Great, thank you. And you mentioned military, and as we were talking about before the webinar, I'm from a military family, and I have to ask, is they have a special place in my heart for our service people that are active or veterans that are going into programs. So are there programs at your schools for military veterans or active duty that are transitioning from military to civilian? Everybody's enthusiastic. Yes. Yeah. Okay, great. Because sometimes they're not. There aren't programs for military veterans and support. So thank you for indulging that off the off the sheet question. And we have a question from our one of our attendees. How is the candidate experience viewed? Meaning, if a student works in a top global firm and holds a managerial position, does that compensate for below average years of experience? So I'm thinking maybe 2 or 3 years of work experience, but at a high level versus 5 to 6 years. Oh, now this one I'm going to ask. Who wants that one?
I'm happy to jump in first, because this is a super common question, right? And sort of projected, when I say we have 5 years as the average of work experience, like everyone's concerned, like everyone on both sides, like too few number of years, too many years, and so our committee really thinks deeply about what have you done with the opportunities you've been given. And it's a hard assessment, because it's not always clear, right? You could be a classroom teacher and be in your role for 20 years and seen no title progression, or, very little that on paper would say, you have advanced. Or you could be in a very traditional industry where every year there's a set promotion, set salary increase, set number of associates who you manage and such. So we really try to see you against yourself, if you will. You're not competing against other candidates in this regard. We really just try to understand, what have you done with the opportunities that you've been given? So, if I understand the context of your question, it sounds like a really positive, like it sounds like you are ahead of where someone would expect to be at 2 or 3 years, let's say. And so that would reflect very positively for you.
One thing I just also want to add too is doing, again, the reflection of the why now. Why does this experience at this point with the MBA allow you to kind of achieve those short-term and long-term career aspirations? Because it's about that mutual fit of both the timing as well as what you want to accomplish with your MBA with those short-term career goals. So we really try to assess that. I know I've reworked our essay questions to really get at that core concept, because there is not always a right fit time or approach to when you pursue your full-time MBA, but having the reflection of the whys are going to be very important in articulating that to your admissions committee around that fit and that timeline for you.
Great, thank you. And Donna, do you have anything to add to this question answer?
Apologies. I wouldn't mind going back to your question about about the military.
Sure.
I just wanted to amplify. We get such great feedback from faculty and recruiters about the military students, and imagine the leadership and the team skills that they have coming in really stand out. About 14% of our entering students this year and last year had a military background. There's a really strong Darden Military Association called the DMA that's like wonderful. But anyway, just wanted to say how well the military students do and how valuable an MBA can be for those transitioning out of the military into the business or civilian world in terms of exposing them to business and all the opportunities.
Great. Well, thank you for going back to that. I love that. And we do get, questions in from military applicants about school size, and they're often looking at maybe a smaller school to have a small, more intimate environment, a team-oriented environment, not being aware that there's other ways to form teams and families at larger schools. We did get a question about the GMAT, which I'm not really sure how to answer. I'm not a GMAT expert myself, but I do want to just mention that there's the traditional test versus the focus test, and I feel like GMAT is really just saying that this is just an evolution of the GMAT, the test itself, and there's really not a way to differentiate the old test scores from the new test scores. But has there been any change?
Yeah,
Go
it
ahead.
actually is a different score. It's a different scale, excuse me. So the GMAT Focus was just launched in January. So for this past year, I think a lot of us saw traditional GMAT plus new GMAT. They're not comparable. So a 700 on the old GMAT is not the same as a 695 or 705 because it's now on a scale ending in 5. So if you were looking at a GMAT average for right now, that's probably going to be the old GMAT. Now, the GMAT Focus is just the new GMAT, and it is the only option that you have if you're taking the GMAT now. So I think you will see that start to change, but please know that we are all aware that the scale is different. So don't look at the averages and say, oh gosh, the average is a 730 and I've come in and gotten a 695 or something. They are not comparable. So GMAC does publish a list of kind of where you can see the percentile of where that is, and you can make an approximation to what an equivalent score of the new GMAT test format would be compared to the old one. GMAT scores are typically valid for 5 years. So for a couple of years, I think we'll still continue to see both formats, but that GMAT, previously called GMAT Focus, now just the new GMAT, is going to be the one that we see predominantly going forward.
Great. Thank you. I knew someone on this panel would have that answer. And it wasn't me. So thank you very much. And it is 8:45. I have to respect everybody's time because we have other events happening later. So I will close with asking you all to let our audience know how they can reach you quickly. If you don't mind, we can start with Allison.
Yeah, sure. You can reach our entire admissions team. We have the single email address. Victoria answers it, and you can address it to whomever you like, and she'll assign it. It's admissions-info@fuqua.duke.edu. And that's great. Jared, I'm going to put mine in the chat too.
Great. Thank you. You can reach out to Jared directly. Looks like jared.liu@yale.edu and mba.admissions, I'm assuming, at yale.edu. I didn't open the chat.
Yeah, perfect. And I'll just say, if you have a very time-sensitive question, send it to mba.admissions. I would hate to be the reason that your application is delayed. If you are, weeks out, months out, hopefully it doesn't take me that long. If you are a future year applicant, I would love to be a part of your MBA journey, but just make sure anything time-sensitive goes to mba.admissions.
Great, thank you. Andrea? Oh,
Thank you,
Andrea.
Heather. So Ross admissions at umich.edu that I put into the chat. Also, we have a very active blogs and video vlogs series with a bunch of key information, and then our Business Beyond Usual podcast, I think, are 3 areas of key information that will have a lot of your questions answered.
Thank you. And Donna?
Hi, I just put my email and the general email box in the chat, and similarly, like so many resources, I'm sure at all of our schools, we go to our websites, on-grounds events, hybrid events, video blogs, blog posts, ambassador programs, ways to reach out to alumni. So just point you in the direction of lots of other resources in addition just to our emails.
Great. Well, thank you all very, very, very much for your time today, for always being here at Center Court and answering all of our audience questions, being part of our family. And I wish you all a great day, great week. And to our audience, thank you for joining us, and stay tuned for the next session, and always come back to visit us at poets&quants.com if you have any questions. We're always here to help. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.